We're going to do a product design question together today. The question is, how would you design an app for biking? The first thing that you want to do here is to ask a few clarification questions and narrow down the scope of the question as much as possible. Some of the questions you can ask are, what kind of bike are you referring to? Or can you assume that you're talking about bikes that are used for short travels within the cities and not road bikes or dirt bikes that are more suitable for outside city travels? Or you can also ask clarifications on what the interviewer means by the word app. Are they referring to a web app or a mobile app or a Facebook app? Let's assume that the interviewer tells you that they're referring to a mobile app. And if you ask them, is this a bike that you own or you rent? The interviewer says that it's basically designing an app for a bike that the users own. So now we know that we're designing a mobile app that helps with biking to be done by the owner of the bike. And we have some flexibility on the types of bikes or the kinds of rides that we're supporting. And now we can think about the user groups. And there are a few user groups that can be relevant to this app. Let's go over them. The first one are people that are using the bike to tour around the city and explore the city. And they're basically just using it for pleasure. The second one are city commuters, people that use the bike to commute from point A to point B for work or shopping or going to a friend's place. Third group could be the food delivery people, like people that use it for delivery of food and they care about speed and ability to store their bikes somewhere safe and like store their stuff that they're going to deliver into the bike. And fourth one could be exercises, people that bike for a few hours at a time and they really care about performance and they want to get healthier by biking. You'll then need to pick one of these user groups, and let's say that you go with the city commuters because you think that there are a lot of people that want to commute using a bike, and there's a trend of people wanting to bike more to be more environmentally responsible, and there are many cities initiatives now that are introducing bike paths, so you think that city commuters is a good user group. Now we have to discuss the pain points that are specific to the city commuters. And let's go over them. Let's see what we can come up with. Well, there's a few. You can, for example, talk about the fact that they need to park their bike anywhere without the bike being stolen. Another pain point could be that they want to be able to wear a helmet without having to carry it around all the time. Another one could be that they want to have a safe ride given the busyness of the cities and sometimes cars and bikes getting into accidents. Or they want to know the condition of the bike to ensure that it doesn't have any flat tires or needs a part to be repaired or like it's time for a service. Or maybe they want to share their biking experience with some people and they want to tell them when they're going to arrive and where they are and how far they're away until their arrival. So you can now do a quick evaluation and say that you're going to evaluate the pain points based on the severity of the pain and whether or not you can address them. And there are different criteria that you can select, but let's say for now you're going to look at the severity of the pain and whether or not it's something that we can address through an app. So let's go over each of these pain points one by one and see what we can do. So parking your bike anywhere, I would say the pain point for it is medium. There are usually a little bit of you can probably take it to somebody's house, or in many places there are already places where you can lock them. So it's not a burning problem. And is this addressable with an app? Maybe. It depends. Maybe there's a solution you can come up with that enables you to find parking anywhere. But it's not definitely a yes because there are a lot of things that are out of your control. And for that reason, we'll rank it as maybe. And for wanting to wear your helmet anywhere without carrying it, I would say the pain is minimal. It's it's painful, but you can live without it, without solving that issue. And is this addressable with an app? I think maybe not, because it's kind of difficult to get rid of the helmet if you don't want to carry it around. Or wanting to have a safe ride, the pain point I would say is very high, and everybody cares about safety. And is this addressable with an app? I would say yes. Maybe we can think about some solutions that increase the safety with additional information that we can share. Wanting to share the conditions, wanting to know the conditions of the bike, I'd say the pain point is low. In many cases, you as the owner know what the condition of the bike is, and you can live without the mobile app telling you how it is. And is this addressable with an app? Yes, it is addressable. There are all kinds of tools and sensors that you can build that informs you when there is a problem, let's say, with the bike. Gamifying the buying experience, I'd say the pain point is low. In many cases, you don't really need to communicate it. It only applies to certain use cases. And is this addressable with an app? Yes, you can definitely address this with an app. So given the results of our evaluation, you can say that you'd like to focus on addressing the safety concerns of the users who commute using their bikes, since it delivers the most value to them. And you think that there's a bunch of ways that you can actually leverage the mobile app to solve for this problem. And technology is one of those things that can actually help resolve it. And you can ask for a minute here to think about some ideas to solve for this. And it's totally okay to ask for a minute to think about ideas. Sometimes people get uncomfortable with this idea of asking for a moment to write down ideas, but I think it's very fine, and you should definitely do that when you find it appropriate. One of those times is brainstorming and thinking about solutions to problems. So one idea that you can come up with is maybe it's a tool that suggests safe paths based on various data points, such as historical accident locations, or the weather conditions, or whether or not there's a bike path, or like if there's traffic, and etc. So it's basically using all kinds of information to give you a recommendation on the bike path to take and whether or not a particular path is safe. Another solution could be an app that basically connects to sensors and cameras that detect dangers around you, such as cars getting too close or like a pothole being in front of you, and warns you, and as basically acts as a device that informs you, hey, there is risk in front of you and there's danger and you should do something about it. So that could be another solution that we can think about. Another product idea can be a crowdsourced mobile app where users can report dangers such as potholes and dangerous intersections with blind spots. And that would be another way for you to basically create some sort of, call it like the Waze for biking. And the fourth idea could be an accident alert where if you fall, it'll notify someone and tells them or calls 911 for you and informs them, hey, there's an accident for this person. Please go to this particular location. This is where they are. And now that you have a few ideas, you'll have to evaluate them based on some criteria such as impact and cost of implementation and decide what you're going to build. So let's do a quick evaluation together and decide. For bike-friendly path, for example, you can say that you think the impact is medium, given that there are a bunch of other tools such as Google Maps that provide this information, maybe not at the same level of detail, but it gives you enough information. And the effort of implementation is pretty high because there are a lot of sources of information, and it's not easy to gather all these information and use some sort of an engine tool, decision-making tool to inform the user which direction to take. Or an AI-based warning system, or basically a warning system, I would say the impact of it is very high. Everybody cares about being informed about danger, and the effort of implementation is maybe medium to high. It's, some of these solutions are already out there in the car industry. As you get too close to other cars, you are informed today, and maybe you can leverage that. Another idea is crowdsourced danger reporting. I think that idea, I would say the impact is medium. But the challenge is it's very hard to actually gather all that information because you really need to have a large number of users to actually make this valuable. And accident alert, I would say the impact is pretty low because there are a lot of tools out there such as your Apple Watch that do that today, and the effort of implementation is not too high. You can just basically use the mobile's device and kind of determine when somebody falls. Now that you've done your evaluation, you can say that you'd like to go ahead with the warning system that informs the user if there is danger around them, because there is a lot of value in the system. People care about safety and being informed when they're in danger. And there's some existing tech that we can potentially use, from like self-driving cars and even cars that give you a warning when you're too close to an object, that you think you can leverage to actually build this. And the development will not be as big of a lift as one might think. So, and you've rated it as medium. Now here you can ask the interviewer if they'd like you to build a product, or they're happy with how much progress you've made. And depending on how much time is left and what the interviewer wants to evaluate you on, they might decide that, yeah, this is far enough and this is great, thank you for the answer. Or they might say, no, we'd actually like to see how you would actually go and build this product. And in that case, you have to really think about how to build this from an MVP perspective. Keep that in mind. So let's assume that the interviewer has asked us to actually go ahead and build the product or build the MVP version of this product. Let's think about the features or the user stories that we want to include in this product, and then prioritize them and decide which ones we're going to build. So there are a few things that you have to think about when building this product. Like it could be you have to think about account setup, basically enabling the user to add their identity or like their name and their comfort level and like where they live. And another one could be bike sensor setup. Basically, you have to connect the bike to the sensors that you've purchased and install the sensors on the bicycle. Another one would be pothole detection. Basically, it's the feature that detects when there's a pothole in front of you. Another one would be near object detector, and this is basically detecting that, hey, there's potentially an object that's getting too close to you, like a car coming from the back or from the side. Another one would be weather analyzer. Maybe you want to use the information about the weather to inform the user that, hey, there's higher risk of you falling here because it's raining right now and you need to slow down. Then you have to present these warnings on the phone and basically present it to the user. And you also maybe want to present them on any other device like headphones and Apple Watch or any wearables that the user might have. So now let's quickly evaluate these ideas and decide which ones are going to make it to our MVP version. For account setup, you can say the impact is medium. User can still really use the app without having a profile and setting up an account initially. And the cost of implementation is medium, but if you wanted to build it, you still have to think about user profiles and OAuth and setting up the accounts and all that stuff. Bike sensor setup, I would say the impact is high. You need to have the sensors to be able to collect all that information from the surrounding of the user. And the cost of implementation is medium because there's some sensors maybe that are out there that you can already use, and you can embed them you can attach them to the bike and use them as some basic detectors for the initial version of the product. And for the pothole detector, I would say the impact is very high. There's a lot of value in having that, but the cost of implementation is very high because it's still an area in technology that is new, and in the car industry, they're still trying to figure it out. So it would be pretty hard to implement. But near object detector, I would say that the value is very high. The impact is high to the user, but the cost of implementation is maybe medium because this has been done in the car industry for many years. And you can probably use some simple object detection tool that measures the speed of the object that's getting closer to it and detect movements and inform the user when they have to. And maybe weather analyzer is another potential detector that you can use and give advice. I would say the value is low because the user can actually see for themselves what the weather conditions are and make that judgment themselves. And the implementation effort is very high. It's very tricky to figure out, what the weather condition is and figure that out through sensors and then make judgments based on that. Now, for presenting warnings on the phone, you can say that the impact is high. User needs to somehow be informed of what's going on and see some sort of a notification. And the implementation effort is low. It's not too hard for the user to actually, for us to build that and to enable the user to see that. And presenting warnings in other devices and wearables, I would say the impact is medium. Potentially, you can do what you need with the phone. And if you can do that, and as long as the user is wearing some sort of headphone, they'll be informed, or the phone will actually notify them. So it's medium. And the implementation effort, I would say, is also medium because you have to integrate with different devices and make sure that it works. And based on the results of your evaluation, you can say that you'd like to prioritize building the account setup, setting up the sensors and near object detector, and presentment of the warnings on the phone as for your MVP.